Oh, good morning, everyone. Or as Reverend Mike says, God morning to you. And so Reverend Mike is taking a well-deserved Sunday off. He's probably watching us right now, so we can wave to him on the camera here. But, it's a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. The heat is down a little bit, and it just feels kind of fall-like. It's just so beautiful. So let's go ahead and get started with our Sunday celebration. But before we do that, I'd like to just acknowledge a few people that are here that we couldn't do the service without. And I'm going to start off with our beautiful Tina Meeks, who's our guest singer today. Yes. And then for our musicians, we have Chris Glick on the piano, and Leon on the bass, and we have Brian on the drums. And we have all sorts of folks who are supporting us in the service in many different ways. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to our practitioner, Peter Bedard, who's going to be doing our invocation reading and a power talk today. And by the way, he just finished up a beautiful, beautiful meditation. Thank you for that meditation, Peter. And then back in the back, we have Sandra and Myrna that are greeting folks today. And we have Harris that's over there, tickling the keys, making sure the cameras are all online and doing all their thing. And then I'd like to also say thank you to Frederick, who's on our soundboard right now. And so let's go ahead and get going. Myrna, can you turn the air off or down or something? Yeah, it's right behind you. Thank you. And so I'd like to go ahead and get started by just saying to take a nice deep breath in. We'll just do that today. And as we let that breath go, we're going to, it's on the other side, over right next to there we go. Yeah. Just flip it off. That'll do good. Thank you. So I know that those of you who are online don't feel the chill here. So you probably say, what's going on there? But we're just going to go ahead and get ready for our meditation video. Except for I need to have my phone. Thank you. So let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath in and let it go as we prepare to go inside.
Wherever I am, I'm home. Even when I wander in the world alone, it doesn't matter where I go. Oh no, wherever I am, I'm home. I'm home, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. Wherever I am, I'm home. Even when I'm wandering, I'm never alone. It doesn't matter where I go, no, wherever I am, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. I'm home.
Thank you, Gabriel, for that video. Always, it's lovely to remember that we're always home. And so now I'm going to ask Peter to come on up. He's going to do our invocation and reading, and I'm sure when he does the invocation that he'll keep peace in his prayer. And so I'm going to go ahead and light our peace candle here.
I love that. Yeah. I built a peace labyrinth just recently. And so I love that we're holding peace in that. Thank you. So I would like to do a reading today, and it is from the Science of Mind magazine. And I was actually looking for a reading that'd be all about home, and then this just spoke to me. So I said, why am I working so hard? So if you haven't had the Science of Mind magazine or don't receive it, I'm really encouraging you to go get it. All right. A quote from Goethe: "A talent is formed in stillness, a character in the world's torrent." Some of the ancients spoke of the karmic law, or what today we call the law of cause and effect, as the results or the fruits of our actions. If we would have these fruits abundant, we must think of the essence as forever passing into form, forever flowing around us, pressing against us, flowing out into everything we do, flowing into health, happiness, and prosperity. If God is in all events, then we should go forth gladly to meet them, not only in the stillness of the evening or the quiet of midnight, but also in the rising tide of human endeavor, when the spiritual sun climbs high, flooding the earth with its effulgence glory, is the presence of God revealed. Prayer and prosperous, that's from Science of Mind, Science of Mind, page 26 to 27. I think I pronounced that word wrong. Today is the day that Spirit has made. Of course, no one stands by itself, but assembles into weeks and branches out into the passing years. Running through this very day is a thread of cause and effect, of prior choice, whether intentional or inadvertent, unseen until it manifests in feeling or form. It's wise to make more of our choices deliberately, well thought out and motivated by compassion for ourselves and His Word. We need not micromanage all of them, though in order to leave ample space for astonishment and awe, just the essential choices on how we will live, love, create, and serve. Then in the midday rising tide of human endeavor, we get to live out the cause and their effects in our work and play. And the affirmation, today, through me, runs the silent power, harmoniously and happily governing my thoughts. I like that. That phrase, today is the day that Spirit has made, was something I loved in that reading. Today is the day that Spirit has made. And today is the day that I co-create with Spirit through my life as Spirit flowing through me now. And so please join me in this spiritual treatment to know and understand that flow. For as God is, I am. Father, Mother, God, creator of all things, I recognize my oneness. I breathe that oneness in. I know that it is my divine right. I am the flow of the divine. I open my heart, my mind, my body to be that flow now. I accept that understanding that home is where I live in the consciousness of the divine. I declare that as my truth. And as I declare it, I evoke it into this moment now, knowing the goodness of that home, not from the outside, but from the inside, to live in it, to breathe it, to walk it into being in my life now. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful that home is always with me, always within me, as God is always within me now. And I release these words knowing their truth, knowing that goodness, knowing that home in my physical form, in my spirit, in my thoughts. I release them and recognizing that they already are, that home already is. I affirm it in the saying, and so it is.
Thank you, David. And so now I'm going to ask Tina Meeks, come on up. And while she's coming up, why don't we just have everybody in the audience say hello to the folks around you. Don't have to give any hugs or anything, but a nice wave will be nice. And for those of you online, I'm going to wave to you, and if you're on the Zoom room, you can maybe wave to each other in your little squares. And, you know, it's just so nice to be here in community. You know, last week was such a big week for us. You know, I had my ordination on Saturday, and then there was the concert on Saturday night, and then there was, you know, all sorts of fun. And then Reverend Mike and I were participating in ministers' gatherings. So we just had a lot going on this last week. So it's good to be here with you. And I'm going to turn this over to Tina. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Reverends.
Not yet. The mic is coming.
We're coming, it's coming.
I'm coming up.
Yeah, I love it. So.
There you go.
There you go.
It's on now, everybody. Yay! I love you, and I'm going to sing about that very thing. God bless you. I know the years are showing, and look at my life. Sometimes I don't know where it's going, don't know much, but I know I love you, and that may be all I need to know. Look at these eyes, oh, they never seem nice. And look at this dream, so beaten and so battered. I don't know much, I know I love you. And that may be all I need to know. So many questions, I try to get the answers. I climb and I still can't get the view. But when I look inside, when I feel so clearly, the only truth I'll ever know is in God's love. In my heart, and that may be all I need to know. I don't know much, but if you say you love me, that will be all I need to know.
You know, I have the mic, Tina, so I have the opportunity to say I love you. Oh. Such a beautiful day today. And here we are in the beginning of October, and so October means being the first week, we get to start a new theme. And so that theme that we're working with for all of October is revealing our holy name, our holy home. And so, you know, when we start a new week, one of the things that Gabriel does is he always creates a new gift for us. So, you know, right now on our screens we have Ganesh wagging his tail, playing, and he was just such a little puppy then. Now he's 60 pounds, you know. But when I look at that, because that's my dog, right, it reminds me of home. It makes me think of all those qualities of love and joy that home is supposed to bring. Now, in the title for the theme is the word revealing. And so that word carries this aspect that it isn't showing right now, right? We're revealing it. But it's also, in this philosophy, we know that when we reveal the truth of God, it's always been there. It's not like we are creating this home. The truth is that we're revealing our home, our holy home that lives within us. Now, you know, I felt like as a child that I was always kind of searching for home. And the truth is that we should always have that home, and it should be part of us. Now, I think maybe it's a little too bad that we're not all homing pigeons. Right? This picture of some homing pigeons. And homing pigeons, the reason I put the picture up there is because they're amazing creatures. If you take a homing pigeon and you take him up to 1,000 miles away from his home, he'll still just find his way back. And they say, the scientists think that it has something to do with, you know, sensing, being able to sense the magnetic fields of the earth and navigating that way. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's this fact that this pigeon can always find home. And so I think, you know, I think we're kind of pigeon-like, you know, in the way that we can always find home. But in finding our home, we have to quit looking outside. We have to look inside. And when we look inside, we're going to find, without a magnetic field whatsoever, we're going to find the home that lives within us. And so we're going to be reminding you of that. That's kind of the central idea of this month, is that home lies within. And that's where we need to look for it, and that's where we need to find it. But I'm going to stop here for a moment, and I'm going to ask Peter to come on up. And he's going to give us a little power talk around revealing our home within, or whatever else he's going to say. We don't talk about this ahead of time, so I'm going to be as amazed as you.
Buckle up, right? And I am so grateful that, Reverend Scott, to put that trust and that faith that just, hey, you can talk and here you go. And I don't have to review it, all of that, which actually this week wouldn't have mattered, because what I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the week, and I sent slides in and I had fully prepared, isn't what's happening right now. So, the best laid plans, right? And so, I wanted to share that I'm starting to understand life more as a verb instead of a noun. I understood life when I was much younger as things, people, places, things. And what's been hitting me a lot more this last year is to understand life as a verb, as an action. An idea that hit me, a thought that hit me, was to know love as a verb, not as a noun, not as that person, not as that thing, but as an action, as an experience, an expression. To know love. And the definition I've been using as knowing love is something that supports my spiritual growth. And so if I'm in a relationship, as a friend, as the big R relationship, as any other type of relationship, do I know love in that relationship? Does that relationship support my spiritual growth? And am I supporting that spiritual growth of another human being? That is the action of love. And today, when I was thinking this morning as I was getting dressed, how am I engaging in the action of home? How am I carrying home with me? Not as the place I live, not as the things I surround myself with, not as that apple pie or the cookies, that type of thing of home, right? But what is the actual experience? And so when I went into my closet, I was like, well, how am I going to dress in home? How am I going to carry home with me and the way I move and the what I wear? And this shirt spoke out to me. Because for a long time, I did not know home. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe in my body. I didn't feel safe as who I am. And I actually understood the depth of that just recently. I was going through some things and talking it out with a friend of mine, and he said to me, you don't feel safe, do you? And I had to stop for a moment, because my regular brain would be, of course I feel safe. I'm good, all's well, everything's fine. And then I had to stop and actually go inside and feel, what is that question? Do I feel safe? And I didn't feel safe. That was a surprise to me. I really didn't know. I didn't feel safe. I thought all was well, but I didn't. And so this talk is really all about me. Because I came here to talk to you, but Spirit just said, wait a minute, this is about me. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Spirit's putting me in exactly the place I need to be. And if I need to understand that, then so do you, or potentially someone out there. And so this shirt really was a way that I got to take home with me, that I can be who I am. I can be proud of who I am. I can be public about who I am. And because I know what it's like to be home, inside, in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, because I know what that's like, I can let it be seen on the outside. And I don't have to be in fear. I don't have to be holding back. I don't have to hide. And so this shirt, actually picking this out of my wardrobe, was a way for me to walk home, that understanding of me, myself, of my connection with the divine. Understanding that place where no matter what happens out in the world, I am held in the bosom of the divine. I am held in the goodness that God is. This shirt is an expression of that. It is a thing. It is a noun. but it's an example how I am walking it into the world. It is an experience. It's a verb. And so I invite you to do that now. And as you know, those who've seen me before, heard me talk before, I'm always wanting to do that co-creation thing that I do, right? To know something, right? To feel it, to see it, to smell it, to taste it, to be it, to walk it into life, right? And so I'm going to ask you to evoke, to declare home in your life right now. And to co-create not only with your brain, with your thinking processes and all the parts of your brain that smell and taste, but to create also, and I need to say, to create also with the universe, with the divine itself. And so I'm going to ask you to be a little experiential with me. And I know sometimes we don't want to say things, we don't want to do things, we don't want to stand up, whatever it is. I'm not going to make you do all that. But I do want you to step into and claim and declare that truth for yourself now. So I'm asking you to understand, what is the thought of home? What is the thought of home? When I think this way, I am home. I know what it's like to think in ways that aren't home, that aren't safe, that aren't connected with the divine. So I'm asking you to know right now, what is the thought? Maybe it's calmness. Maybe the thought is simply flow. Maybe the thought is just being, and I put my mind in that. What is the feeling of home? What is the feeling, the tangible, tactile feeling of home? It may be soft. It may be fluid. What is the feeling of home? And what is the spirit, the heart understanding for you of home? So I'm going to ask you to participate with me. I'm going to ask you to fill in the blank, to evoke it out loud so that the universe and everyone can hear and witness it and say yes. So I'm going to ask you to fill in that blank. When I say the thought of home is, I'm going to ask you to shout it out or whisper it if that's how you need to be. Speak it into form. And so the thought of home is
Safety.
yes, I say yes to that. The feeling of home is
Happiness.
I say yes to that. The spirit, the heart understanding of home is
Enthusiasm.
yes. I say yes to that. And I'm joining you to say yes with me. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to you for being, for knowing, for living, for growing, for speaking your truth. Thank you for evoking that. Because we know how we think is who we are. And there's one slide I want to leave you with that was from my old talk that didn't happen today, but I was really prepared for. And the one slide is that the thought, I think it's the second slide. Let me see what it says.
You gotta sneak up here. Yes.
We must know the world we cannot see. That's what you just did. We must know the world you cannot see if we're going to create the life we want to be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can you feel that?
Yes.
Do you know it? Yes! So I'm inviting you today to know, to see the world that you cannot see. To feel it, to know it, to smell it, to taste it, and to call it forward, to evoke it into being. Because who you are is worth it. Who you are is an expression of the divine. Who you are is important, and who you are matters. And I love you, and I'm so blessed to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Peter. one of the things I love about Ahiah is that it doesn't matter what shape you are, what size you are, what age you are, what sexual orientation you are, whatever you are, whoever you are, however you have shown here. We love you and we accept you just the way you are. Yes. So, as I was thinking about this talk title this week, because I kind of I keep telling you guys this, I live this talk title all week long. I get to recognize and see where it is in my life that home is where the heart is. And obviously, I think it started a little early last week because I got to do my ordination, and we got the concert, and Michael God, who's a good friend, was here for all of that, and then spoke last week and sang and all the stuff that he does. And I had other friends come for the ordination, and I felt so at home. I felt so at home. It was really beautiful. And so thank you for supporting myself in the ordination. Thank you for supporting Ahiah in our 80th anniversary, 80 years. And I think, there's probably some people who are still resting up from last week. Maybe they're on screen today. Maybe they're watching us. But, I had to go a little bit deeper in that thought of what is home for me, right? What was home? What has it been for me all of my life? Because it's different now than it used to be. When I was a kid, the concept of home was truly a confusing thing for me. Very, very confusing. First of all, I just moved around too much. I've told you guys before that I moved schools. I changed schools 12 times by 5th grade. And that's just an indicator of the moves there, but if you start back from where I was born, to 1st grade or kindergarten, I moved many more times there. And so this idea of home, I didn't have a comfortable idea of that. I never really had the opportunity to put down any roots whatsoever. And even when I looked up this week, I looked up the definition of home, and it says, basically in the dictionary, it says, it's the place where you and your family live. And that was even strange for me. Because, my parents were effectively divorced when I was 6. I think the legal proceedings took a while, but, effectively they were done with each other by the time I was 6. And there was a whole year where I didn't even live with my mother and my brother. I lived with my aunt and my uncle and their family. And then there were times when my mother was not at the house as I was growing up for extended stretches. And I would live there with my stepfather and my brother. And so this idea of family and home was just didn't all click inside my head as a kid. And so I think that most of my understanding of home actually came from the television. So remember the TV back in the 60s and the 70s, there were wonderful shows that taught you what home was supposed to be like Leave It to Beaver, and you might remember Mayberry RFD, and even when it got maybe a little more realistic in All in the Family in the 70s, it was still, I couldn't relate. Because all of those kids and those families had lived at that house, in this storyline. They had always lived in that one place. And so you remember the kids. We had Beaver, and we had Opie, and we had Gloria. And even when we got to the Brady Bunch in the 70s, right, half the kids got to live in their house the entire time. And so to me, that was this idea of this perfect home, what TV showed. Well, TV's gotten a little more realistic today, right? Maybe overly realistic in some ways. But I always felt like there was something missing. And so as I became an adult, I actually moved out of the family home, quote unquote, when I was 17. My mother moved to Texas and I was left alone by myself, and I was happy. That was like, oh my God, freedom to me. I have always equated that last year of high school with freedom, you know? And it was a good feeling, but, you know, when I graduated, I was only there for a couple weeks after I graduated, and I moved down here. My first home here was this 8 by 30 foot trailer. It was in it was in Hawthorne on Inglewood Avenue. And it had pink and white stripes on the outside, and the interior had powder blue carpets. And that was my home. But, you know, I started school after I had been here for a year. I started college, and that was a long process for me because I was paying for college myself. And so I didn't graduate until I was 27. And those first few years of being in college, you know, I was always money strapped, so I was moving around a lot. And then, when I was 23, I found my ex. We were both 23. And, you know, he was living in the home that he had been born in, you know. He had had one short little stint somewhere else, but there he was, living in the place he had been born in. My dream, right? My thing that said home to me. And he was a sweet guy, and we were together for 11 years, but I think that was really what it was. I would see in him this possibility of home, of having a home, being here in this home, something that I'd never really experienced. And so I got that experience of a relationship. We bought a house. I wasn't even out of college, and we were in escrow for a house. And so I had the relationship, the house, I even had a dog. And it seemed like for the first time in my life I should truly be happy because I had a home. But I wasn't happy. And that's the thing, is when we look outside of ourselves for home, you know, we're actually looking in the wrong direction. So I don't think it's just me that home has a place in our hearts, right? You know, this thing of we all want a home. I think in Peter's talk, we all got the opportunity to kind of think and look inside and go, what is it about home that hooks me? That has this place in my mind? And have you ever noticed that home is kind of a central theme in almost any book I've ever read? In fact, there is it's almost like an archetype to stories. According to Joseph Campbell, he called it the hero's journey. And it starts out, there's always a hero in a story, right? What good is a story without a hero? So you have a hero or you have a heroine. And then in this hero's journey, the next thing that happens is that that hero or heroine, they have to leave their home. So you think about an example of that is like Frodo Baggins in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. There he is, happy in the Shire, and yet circumstances are saying he has to take this ring and go. He has to go out into the real world. And then, after many tests and adventures and many ways of learning, right, that's part of this story. That's the middle part of the story. And that's similar to like Harry Potter, where he leaves his home, and where does he go? He goes to Hogwarts. And he learns and has these adventures and finds friends. There's all these pieces to this hero's journey. But it always starts by leaving the home, and then you learn everything outside of the home. And then you get to come back. You get to come back home in this hero's journey. An example of that would be Ulysses, where he comes back and he uses everything that he's learned in order to set his home right again. Right? As he left, his wife was left there to tend the home, and all these people were conniving at home. And so he got to come home and set it all right. And so this hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell called it, he called it that in a book called The Hero of 1,000 Faces, because there's all these stories that have this exact same arc. And he says in that book, he has a quote. He says, "We must be willing to let go of the life we planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us." Isn't that really similar to the Ernest Holmes quote that Peter mentioned, right? We have to let go of what we think, of the home that we have pictured, so that we can go out into the world and we can learn something new. Or we can go inside and we can learn something new. And in doing that, we transform ourselves. Wouldn't it have been kind of sad if in all of those stories the hero would have stayed home? Just think of poor Frodo Baggins with this ring and Dark Lord coming to get it, right? Or Harry Potter and Voldemort, if he didn't learn the magic at Hogwarts. So we have to transform in some way. We have to learn, we have to grow. But I find it interesting that there's a flip side to that coin, in which a guy named George Moore says this. He says, "A man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it." It's almost saying the exact opposite. And yet, in my heart, I feel like both of those statements are very true. In this one, I looked up some statistics on the internet, and they're internet statistics, so don't quote me on this. But some van lines did a survey, and they said 72% of the people of Americans still live in their hometown. 72%. Now we know that a lot of people leave to go to college and all, but that would mean that a lot of people must be going back. They have to go back home. Maybe eventually they go back home. Maybe they retire there. But 72%. And so I think the point of this story, this part of it is, when we're searching too much outside of ourselves, really we have to go back home. We have to go back to that place within us that is the home, that is always at home, has always been at home, will never not be at home. that life that is us at the very core of us. And so I think that kind of leads us to a spiritual truth, and I think it was said best by Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? She says, there's no place like home. Isn't that true? There is no place like home. We all have this desire to be home. And I think the interesting story, part of her story is that, she got the ruby slippers at the very beginning of the story. Remember, the tornado picks up the house, and where does it put it? Right on top of the wicked witch of the East. And so she goes out her door and she picks up these ruby slippers and puts them on. And the only thing she needed to do was just to say, there's no place like home. But she went through all of this other learning. And so the realization that we need to have, I think, is that all we have to say is there is no place like home. Which means that we're all wearing ruby slippers, I guess.
And Peter's shirt.
Yeah, and Peter's shirt. So, one thing I noticed, kind of like Peter come do a power talk, right? For Harris, I give him the quotes and he puts them into these nice slides. And so I don't see them until I look at them while doing my talk. And so I looked at this one. I had figured that it'd have this big thing of Dorothy on the yellow brick road. But what he put on there is a picture of Ahiah. Wow, he's so clever. Thank you, Harris. And so, that's the truth of this place, though, is that there is no place like home. And what I know, for myself at least, I won't speak for you, but what I know is that I always feel at home here. I feel at home because, when I first walked in here, I told this story last week for the ordination. When I first walked in here and I got to that brown gate, I had to stop because I felt the peace that lives here. And as I interacted with the people for the first time, I felt the love and the joy. And so, there is, for me, there is no place like home, Ahiah home. And I just love being here. So, it just kind of brings us back to this talk title. That home is where the heart is. And so wherever we hang our heart, wherever we know that our heart is safe, wherever we feel the love that Spirit is, wherever we can be and we know that the people around us are in community with us, that they're loving, they're accepting, they're joyful. That's a place where I know that I'm at home because that's where my heart is. And so I know that basically we can never be lost because all we have to do is look inside. Look inside, feel our heart, and know that we are safe right here, right inside of us, right at home, in that place that we've always been. And so, ultimately, this place that we are feeling safe, it's a place of love and peace and joy. And so as our teaching teaches, as we recognize the truth, the capital T truth, in the inside of our lives, then it starts to show up more fully, more abundantly in the outside of our lives. And so safety is an important thing, I think. And so I have an affirmation for you here, written by Harris, by the way. And it's showing on our screen. And so if you just go ahead and read it along with me. I am safe in my heart space. Let's say that again. I am safe in my heart space. So as you go into your week this week, I'd like you to just keep a few things in mind. First of all, this hero's journey, this idea of a hero's journey, how has that shown up in your life? How has the hero's journey been true of you? And then, what does home mean? That was what Peter was saying. What does home mean for you? Because it's an important concept. It's a concept that we all need to recognize. And ask yourself the question, am I still searching for home? Is that still one of my drivers to find home? And then, find home in your heart. If you haven't found it before there, just look. It is there, I promise you. Promise you that. And then, as always, if any of this is confusing, it's okay. All you have to do is just let Spirit guide you. Thank you, and namaste. And so, I just invite you to go inside with me. Go into that heart space. Go into that space inside of you that knows that it knows that it knows. That space inside you that has always been at home, that is always at rest, always at peace, always safe, always knowing love and joy and prosperity. Because it's that place inside of us that knows Spirit, knows it to be the truth of us, knows it to be all that we are and all that we see and all that we feel and touch, all that has ever been or ever will be. And as that's the truth of God, that love and that peace and that joy that God is, it's the truth of each and every one of us, this life that is present through us and as us. I'm so happy, so joyful, so delighted to know that is the truth of me, and it's the truth of you also, that this life that is present through us and as us is moving and having its way with us in love and peace and in joy. And so it's from that place of knowingness that I speak my word as the truth of each and every one of us, knowing that we are at home right here, right now. We are safe in this thing called home. Inside of us, nothing can disturb us there. I know absolutely that the life and the power and the presence that Spirit is moving through us as love and as peace and as joy. And so it creates into our life in exactly the way that we need in order to experience, in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to manifest into our beingness all that we need. All that we desire, all that is the perfect right essence for us. And for knowing these truths, I just give thanks in that knowingness. I give thanks for knowing that Spirit is us and as us and through us, that joy and that love that God is permeates us. And I release this prayer to the law, knowing that it's already fulfilled in the mind that God is. And I say life and God are good and very good. we say? And so it is.
So it is.
Amen and amen. And so now's the time for conscious contributions. And so we have the ushers coming up. We've got Jackie and Sandra. Thank you, Jackie and Sandra. And so I know that for those of you who are here, there are offering envelopes in the pews. You can go ahead and put your offering in there and then put it in the basket. I know that many people, especially those of you online, have already given through one of our ways. Maybe you have a recurring gift that's coming to Ahiah. But however you're doing that, we have 3 different ways of doing it, which is, first of all, to give through ahiah.com/donate. Second is to text the word give to 616-229-2225. Or last of all, you can always mail a check in to here at 150 North El Molino Avenue, Pasadena, California, 91101. However you do that, let's just go ahead and take that virtual gift to our hearts. And I have the blessing here on the screen. You can go ahead and read along with me. This gift I give is God in action. I send it forth with joy, confidence, and ease. I am blessed by the law of giving and receiving, as I now share my gift with life. Pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And so it is. Amen and amen. And so now I'd like to ask Tina to come on up. She's going to do another song for us.
I got these heels on. All right, careful.
Yeah.
All right.
They look good.
Oh, thank you. I want to thank Leon and Chris and Brian holding up the music. Oh, you all know this one. People get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no ticket, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear the diesel coming. Don't need no ticket, you just get on board. People get ready, there's a train from Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's hope for all comes on the boat. There ain't no room for hell sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his home. Have pity on those whose chances grow thinner, but there's no hiding place in the kingdom throne. Hey, hey, when you think about going home, this song will take us down, right? Yeah. Oh, people get ready, there's a train coming. Don't need no baggage, just get on board. All you need ticket. Just get on board. You know you don't need no ticket. Just thank the Lord. Oh, don't need no ticket. You just everybody thank the Lord.
Oh, thank the Lord, absolutely. So we have some youth in the house. We do. Yeah? Let's come on down. I am interested to hear. You know, they always do the most fascinating stuff in youth church. So I want to hear all about it. Yeah, oh, get ready for Halloween.
Good morning. Over the next 5 Sundays, it might seem like I kind of like Halloween. Harper and I wanted to ask Harper something. Harper, what are ghosts made out of?
Mostly sheep,
And why is that?
so they could fly and they're lighter.
They're lighter. Did we learn about a story about a little ghost today who was sad? He wasn't very happy. How come? What was he made out of?
Quill,
And what about being a quilt was sad for him?
because he's heavier and he can't fly, and he thinks he can't because he's super different from his family.
Very well said. Thank you. We do. We have a quilt. And then what do we find out? We found out that something happened and he realized that his difference made him what?
Special.
It made him very special. And he was able to help somebody that his other family couldn't because he was made of warm material.
Yeah.
Did we get our eyes on? Oh, we didn't do our eyes. Good job, Moses. So that's what we learned, that there's all different kinds of ghosts, that we're all unique. And after he learned that, Harper, how was he able to fly after, and what did his family think about him?
They think that he was super special.
Was he able to fly as well as they did then?
Yeah.
So maybe that was all in his head. Thank you, ghosts. The teens had a little different lesson, and Alex is going to tell you about that.
So today we were talking about condescending thoughts, and so we made haunted houses, and on the inside of the little windows we put thoughts like, I'm not a good listener, or what you're not good at, or what you think you're not good at or you can't do. And then under the tombstones we put those that we want to let go of.
Forever.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, yes. You hold it, your haunted house instead? Thank you.
All right.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, Harper and Origami Master Malachite made origami ghosts. It's harder than it looks. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I think I'm gonna go have to make that thing the teens did at my house to, remind me of letting go of a few things. So in your program today is this Ahiah newsletter for the youth program. So it tells you some of the things that are in there. It's in the, it was also sent out with our regular newsletter this week. And so if you're not getting the regular newsletter, you can go to ahiah.com/subscribe to get that newsletter, and it'll have all the good stuff that we're doing. Plus I write something every week in there that I hope inspires you. And then next week. So last week we had a big thing, this week we're resting a little bit, but next week we're back to having another big thing. We have Friends and Family Day next week. And did the ushers give you out a little business card thing? No? Harris, can you find those? They were back there somewhere, and maybe we can give those out to everybody. They're just little invites that you can hand out to a friend to ask them to come to Ahiah next week. We have food next week. The Board of Trustees we're gonna be doing chicken and all sorts of goodies for you. So we're after the Friends and Family Day, regular service, we're gonna be going in to have Friends and Family Day lunch. So you're all invited. I would love for you to bring yourself first and foremost, but if you want to invite somebody to come along as a friend or family, that would be just spectacular. And then I have a list of coming attractions here, just we get kind of busy in the holiday season, so I want to let you know of some of the things that are coming up. Friends and Family Day I talked about. We also have our annual Awakening Abundant Living program. We have 17 folks that are meeting every week. We do it for 8 weeks in order to put this program on. If you're on that team with me, would you raise your hand? Is that Marcia back there? Yeah, and Chris here, and Jackie back there. I just want to say thank you to you guys and all the other ones that are helping me with that. So we end up putting 4-week program on where we talk about prosperity for 4 weeks. And, the idea is, first and foremost, we're not afraid to talk about money here at Centers for Spiritual Living because money is a true component of our life, right? It's the energy that God is moving through us and as us. And so what those 4 weeks are about is teaching people the prosperity principles that have worked so well in my life and in so many people's lives that I know, in order to, prosperity is not just about money, but it is about money. And it's also about other things. It's about moving forward with joy, confidence, and ease. So we're going to be talking about that for 4 weeks. And part of that, and those dates are 10/23 to 11/13. We're also going to be having on 10/30, we're going to have the Ahiah Family Picnic, or potluck, right here. We're doing it this year at Ahiah again. We're going to have a Halloween party with the youth that day. We're also going to be doing a teen camp fundraiser. And then some of the things that are coming up later in the year, we have our traditional Thanksgiving food drive for Friends Indeed. We also have an angel tree project that we work on to give gifts to children that wouldn't have the opportunity to have a gift otherwise. We're going to have our holiday party on the 8th of January. We wait until after the holiday season because everybody's so busy during the holiday season. So this is the first Sunday, not the first, 1/1 is actually the first Sunday, but we're not going to do a holiday party on the 1st of January. So it'll be the 8th, and it's going to be here this year. The last times that we've done it for quite a number of years outside at a hotel, but we decided we're going to do it, and it's going to be catered. So nobody, has to do anything, you just have to come. And then teen camp is the 13th through the 16th. So there's lots of things coming up. And just so you know, everybody is invited to attend the Board of Trustees meeting. It's the 3rd Wednesday of each month, so this month it's October 19th, and that's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have our book study every week, Tuesdays from 7 to 8:30, and we have wonderful practitioners here. You can meet them either by, those of you who are practitioners, you can stand up or wave or something. We got Peter and Chris, Marcia, Jackie, Myrna back there. These are all people who want to pray with you. So if you want to have a prayer afterwards, something's heavy on your heart, or just something that you want to be grateful for, any of us would love to pray with you. Or you can go to ahiah.com/meetourpractitioners for information. You can also go to ahiah.com/prayers to put in a written prayer request. Only the practitioners and ministers see that. And you can also get a little lift me up by going to our dial-a-prayer, which you can find on our website, or by calling here, the number, and hitting option 7. So all of that, just to tell you, there's so many things to do at Ahiah. We'd love to see you at whatever works for you. So let's go ahead and say our benediction. It's showing on our screen. Read along with me. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is this thing called life. Life is in my mind. Life is in my body. Life is in all of my affairs. I accept it. I am it. And I share it. Just the way it appears and just the way it appears now. Thank you, life. Amen and amen. It's so good to have you here. For those of you who are here today, for those of you online, I will see you in just a few minutes. I'll be going online to our Zoom room, so I would love to see you there. Otherwise, I'll be running around in the fellowship hall too, so I'd love to chat with everybody that's here too. So however that is, I love being here with you. I love chatting with you, and I love you guys. So I'll see you next week too. Thank you. And namaste.
Namaste. Woo!